Good morning, everybody. A lot of people are connecting. I will give everybody just a few minutes to connect. I see the number is going up a lot, so welcome all. I think we already have our first question in the chat, which must be a record for the first question before the official meeting started. So that's amazing. How will the presentation be available? Go to our website and subscribe to our newsletter, and you will get these slides in your inbox. That's how I roll. We will give the details also in the chat, but thank you so much for asking the question. I'll wait a little bit more. Still people coming in. The room is slowly filling. I think I'll start now. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for this webinar on a very important topic, the Clean Industrial Deal, its implications for the European battery industry and innovation. We'll have an exciting agenda. We'll have a overview of what's now being published in the various documents relating to the EU competitiveness agenda. My colleague Bozorg will go both through the Clean Industrial Deal, but also the Industrial Action Plan for the European automotive sector. And afterward, we'll have an interesting panel discussion and also the possibility for you to ask some questions. Maybe some of you who know us are thinking, okay, why is this for BEPA to do? Of course, innovation is a key word in all of these documents, and that's why we've taken the lead also to make sure that everybody from the industry, but also on the research side, is fully up to date about what's going on here in Brussels. The executive director of BEPA. So for those who don't know, who are we? BEPA was set up in 2020 to support the BAT partnership under Horizon Europe, the 925 million of research funding that was earmarked under Horizon Europe. However, now we've grown much more than that. We have a broad and excellent research community. We have over 250 members from research industry, various associations coming together, discussing the priorities for the European battery sector. We really working on getting their expertise, promoting projects, putting them into place together with the European Commission. So actually we find the solutions for key European industries. One of our main aspects is the strategic research and innovation agenda that we publish to show the way, and we provide a launchpad for different battery startups. Last year we had a nice pitching event to connect startups not only with investors but also with the bigger corporate organizations. And of course we host one of Europe's leading battery events, the Battery Innovation Days, which will be in Graz in Austria in early December, 2 and 3 December. So keep an eye out for that one. It's a very interesting event where really research, industry and policy come together to have strategic discussions on how to go forward. What's our vision? We have over 230 members, even closer to 250 from industry and research, representing all parts of the value chain, and really looking what's next in terms of innovation for the European value chain. And this can range from cell manufacturing technologies, AI discovery for materials, batteries for smart grids, inventing the next generation high-performance batteries, but also how can Europe compete in low-cost chemistries, developing new materials processing, recycling technologies to make sure that we use less resources and keep the resources in Europe. And also we are looking at application sides, develop BMS and and virtual testing. So without further ado, I want to give the word to my colleague Bozo Kambai, who will lead us through this set of strategic documents for that we dive into it with the panel discussion. So Bozo, take it away.
Thank you so much, Walter. Good morning, all. So I just get right to that. Welcome to our webinar. So today we're going to talk about the EU competitiveness agenda. This is top of the EU planning for the next commission. This commission, the new commission, has it at the top of its agenda. We're going to see what's there for the batteries. I put so far because it's pending. Majority of the 2025, a good part of the 2026 will be dedicated to this planning. And it's very extensive, has different parts, but we're gonna get, as Walter mentioned, to two of them, the Clean Industrial Deal and the strategic plan for the automotive sector, and see what's there for the batteries, what is the view of the new commission on the battery sector, the industry, the innovation as a whole. Okay, so a little bit of the background. So the premise here, and the determination for the regaining the competitiveness in the new commission really comes from you can track it back actually not very far ago to summer of last year when two reports were published by the two former Italian Prime Minister, Mario Draghi and Enrico Letta. So it has been an evolutionary development. They use lack of GDP growth for some countries like Italy started in early 90s, but definitely very intensified throughout the past couple of decades, and especially after the financial crisis. So, but the new commission, you see a lot of reference to these two documents. The story starts there. The Enrico Letta's report on the cohesion of the single market really materializing the vision of the European Union for a single market, identifying the burden of the regulation and really integration, which is lacking in very sensitive parts like the finance, like the energy, specifically telecom, defense, etc. The other part that is maybe more related to us in the battery sector is that report from Mario Draghi, pointing out to the innovation gap, really emphasizing on a plan that should be comprehensive of decarbonization and competitiveness, and also the security part. So you're very much invited to see this report, especially Draghi's analysis of the battery sector, very data-oriented, very interesting. So these are the guidelines here, and the diagnosis here is the baseline and the basic point that the Commission starts to regain its competitiveness. But as therapeutic as it is to do the soul searching and to see what went wrong and really providing guidelines, the difficult part is doing the things and execution and implementation. But we're not talking about that. Step before that. So we are talking about the planning. So these documents are providing plans. The implementation and execution remains to be seen. So the past few months, the Commission has been hard at work to plan the actions. It started with the competitiveness compass. So these documents, in case you got disconnected right now, tell you what's in there. You have a lot of you have a plan in terms of a calendar, so you have dates that these documents will be out. You see the identification of the specific sectors that are really important for that competitiveness revolution, if you will. So the Commission has identified what are the immediate needs, what are the immediate sector and areas that needs to be addressed. And there are a lot of names of the existing initiatives, plans, legislations, and acts, and introduction of a lot of them. So it remains to be seen in the course of this year and next year what exactly are there and what's there in detail. Just to give you an overview of what we are talking about. So we're going to get to the latter two, the Clean Industrial Deal and the action plan for the automotive sector. So let's start with the Clean Industrial Deal. So you might have heard of the EU Green Deal. So you can think of the Industrial Deal as a kind of a more business-friendly successor to that. So with the implementation and the kind of a strategy on really materializing the decarbonization goals of the Green Deal has been in the meantime addressed through intermediate legislation like the Critical Raw Materials Act, like the Net Zero Industry Act. But this is kind of a update to that. So it focuses on clean tech itself and also the energy intensive industries. So it really provides a kind of a vision for what needs to be done when it needs to be done. As six pillars, let's get to each of them and see what's there for the battery sector. So affordable energy, again, this is not a mystery. After the invasion of Ukraine, the European continent as a whole has been hit hard with the prices of the energy, both for the industry and the citizens. So a lot of provisions is in there. Just pointing out to the ones that might be more related to us. Double downing on the invitation for the deployment of the power purchase agreements. Again, it has been a point of controversy in the battery regulation itself. The really inclusion of that kind of a leverage for the ones that use the renewables. But still, the Commission is going to support it. There will be financial support attached to that. In terms of the batteries, in the grid, in the future grid, aside from the specific mentioning of the hydrogen, sounds like the Commission is still going with the technology neutral view. So there might be batteries in kind of a different legislation that comes from the affordable energy part, but still there is little role foreseen explicitly for the batteries in the grid. Storage a little bit more, but again, there's no mentioning of the batteries specifically. Lead market, so really incentivizing the market and really measures on the demand side for the clean tech itself. So emphasizes again on the non-price criteria in the public procurement. There has been good guidelines in the Net Zero Industry Act already. Again, it's a reintroduction of those guidelines, being more granular on what we mean for that main criteria. It should be clean, resilient, circular, and cyber secure. Resilience again has been more highlighted compared to the previous document. Product labeling, the invitation to really use that. Hopefully that will come to practice to really leverage that green premium. Hopefully it will be a good opportunity for really practically using the digital battery passports. A lot of European projects have been working on that. The Commission signals a good kind of opportunity for them to get to work. On the financing part, so the money itself, good part, 3 parts on the EU level of funding. So about the innovation fund, so it has been already introduced 6 billion for the whole clean tech sector under the innovation fund in 2025. The Commission reintroduces that. There will be a flagship Horizon Europe call of 600 million within the 2026 and 2027 work program. This doesn't really come with the notion of a fresh money. It's still kind of as far as we know at the moment, is the rechanneling of the existing budget for the Horizon, but with a more kind of a new under the new roof for the clean tech sector itself. The Commission is again doubling down on the resilience criteria in the fundings, both EU level fundings and the member states fundings, and also some other instruments. Again, remains to be seen. New names sometimes are really pushing to implement and really execute what has been promised previously, like the sovereignty seal. Also rather new stuff like an industrial decarbonization bank and others. So on the private side, again, it's emphasized on the role of the InvestEU, increasing the risk bearing of the InvestEU. There is a new player in the game. It's called Tech EU Investment to bridge the gap, to fill the value of that, support this disruptive innovation. This is indeed remains to be seen. Not much detail on what it is and how it will work. On the state aid, we will have the new framework. So the new framework for the Clean Industrial Deal, called Clean Industrial Deal State Aid Framework. It specifically works on the relaxation and also providing the state aid for the clean tech sector. You have again emphasizes on the simplification of the approval of the state aid. The Commission is also will work closely to speed up the new important project of common European interest, the IPCEIs. As you know, we have 2 IPCEIs already for the batteries, amounting to over 6 billion of funding from the member states. Apparently, the Commission will still work on that and really make that easier. So 3 dimensions of the financing, the circularity of materials. So again, this is a good sign that circularity of materials is the main pillar of the clean industrial deal. We know that the green transition comes with the materials transition and the circularity, given the Europe's not really comparable amount of resources at the moment and the sourcing industry. It's very crucial to be embedded in the agenda. What we have so far is just, again, a reiteration of the importance of the Critical Raw Materials Act and really resurfacing the goals of that, pushing for that. Some rather new initiatives like the Critical Raw Materials Center to jointly purchase. Again, joint purchasement has already been in the critical raw materials, demand aggregation. And again, one last point on that is the strategic project that will be announced very soon, that will benefit from the facilitated permitting and really support at the member states at the EU for the financing, etc. We will have a Circular Economy Act in 2026, really getting everything under one kind of a body of legislation. What is promising in the clean industrial deal, so at that high level, is the mentioning of the black mass. Really, the importance of the black mass have been highlighted here. The Commission will adopt to make sure that the export is as much as possible limited. And we will potentially have a new IPCEI on the circular advanced material for clean technology. So a lot of programs there. On the global markets, as you know, it's very turbulent. The global market is not really as its most peaceful status, if you will. But the unfair practices, the export of domestic overcapacity, etc., will be investigated. We will have on the trade defense instruments work of the Commission, and on the skills parts, again, we are introduced to 2 new kind of initiatives with little details: the skills union of skills as overarching skills strategy, and hopefully publishing of a quality jobs roadmap, which will provide more support to workers in transition, to be published. So let's get to more specific parts. So that was the clean industrial deal, really covering all the clean tech sector. The action plan for the automotive sector is one of the products of the Compass, and they are really identifying the needs that this sector needs. You know, the situation is not the most joyful for the automotive sector at the moment. The competition is very intense, and the Commission, rightfully so, it has dedicated a specific focus on that. So a lot of negotiations and a lot of consultations with the stakeholders in the past months, with the Executive Vice President of the Commission, Mr. Sejourne. You have 5 pillars also here. 2 of them are very much related to the battery, the innovation part, and the supply chain resilience are very much pointing out to the batteries. So I'll be very quick. So innovation and digitalization. Digitalization is about mostly the AI-powered, connected, and autonomous vehicles. So that part of the vehicles themselves, the competition is as fierce, if not more, on that part for the automotive sector as much as it is for the batteries and the supply part. So the Commission will build on the work that has been done with our sister initiatives, 20 SECAM and CHIPS joint undertaking to form an alliance, a European Connected and Autonomous Vehicle Alliance. The Commission again will support the member states for the new IPCEIs on autonomous vehicles. And again, Tech EU investment program has been again resurfaced here as a potential tool for support of the digitalization. But the innovation part, so this is the part that we are very proud of, the BAT4EU partnership, which is, of course, the private side is co-run by BEPA, has been mentioned in the document as a potential, as a focus point and a very important point of focus for the battery sector in Europe, supporting the next generation batteries, supporting the recycling. So that's very promising for us. There's a number there, 350 million over the course of 2025 and 2027 to support the innovation. Again, this does not exceed what has been earmarked for the partnership itself. So we are not really talking about extra support, if you will, in the at least next couple of years on the horizon Europe. Measures on demand, the clean mobility. So a little bit of a pull from the demand side. The emission standards has been changed. The targets of the 2025 and 2035 has not changed, but the averaging flexibility have been into practice. So a little bit of a relaxation on that side. And the rolling of the charging infrastructure is in the document, an invitation to really make that happening and facilitating the grid access. So it's timely with the BYD's announcement on the new charging facility. Quite honestly, it's a fantasy in Europe to have a 1 megawatt charging points. So this is very much needed. This is hits it on the nail and really addresses the grid situation with the deployment of the electric vehicles. So supply chain resilience, this is the part on the batteries and the battery industry per se. 3 parts: cell production, raw materials, and circularity of the materials. Cell production, we are introduced with the new name, Battery Manufacturing Booster. The Commission again talks about the 3 billion of the innovation fund that has already been announced. 1.2 of it has already been published, the call for proposals. 1.8 has to be seen for the remaining couple of years. If you are dealing with the EU funding, you know that the promises kept is still a good news. So that's the bright side, but still there is no introduction of a new facility for the innovation fund there. The Commission will look into EU direct production support, so something that resembles the IRA in US, but still it's with not much of the granular information coming up, and suggest the benefit of benefiting the battery sector in the simplification of the state aid. So that's good. We had it in the previous years. A gigafactor is benefiting from that. So that has been again reiterated. The scale-up phase, the ramp-up phase. If you're a BEPA member, you know that we talk about it too much. We know that it's an inevitable phase. It is costly, and we cannot really escape that. We can minimize that with better technologies, with innovation. We really support at the early stage, but still it is there, and it is as value of that as it gets. So the promise of the Commission here is still a little bit unclear, that the Commission will explore additional practical ways to support that. And again, there is a notion of the standardization of cell design. This is a concern in the EU battery sector, that maybe we have to converge to a more unified kind of standards for industry standards for the cell design, that we facilitate things and accelerate things, and the Commission has also noted of that. On the cell production, again, non-price criteria is emphasized to be in the funding criteria. Another good news is that we will have European content requirements in the upcoming legislation, so that's very much needed, and that is there. On the battery raw materials, not very much to be seen. It's more or less what you saw in the Green Industrial Deal's raw materials part. Again, emphasis on the continuation and implementation of the Critical Raw Materials Act, and again, as I mentioned, there will be a list of the strategic projects very soon published that benefit from the streamlined permitting procedures and others. On the material circularity, the Commission again will look into financial support for the battery recycling facilities with little detail. And as I mentioned, black mass, the export of the black mass will be classified. I mean, I think it is very much classified already as a hazardous waste. But the shipment to the non-OECD countries, at least for the non-OECD countries, there will be a ban on the export. Good news on that side. Level playing field. So that's also not a news. The specific rules of origin in the trade defense measures will be introduced. The foreign subsidies regulation again will be used for the battery sector. The Commission will propose conditions for inbound foreign investment, so that which includes the requirements for the joint ventures, the licensing, the intellectual property, or everything that comes from the tech transfer, and the battery supply chain will be a fundamental player in that legislation. So remains to be seen, but again, the Commission has acknowledged that. So just wrap up with the good points and a little bit of unknown points. So what is promising there? First of all, is that the battery sector is still there. So the battery sector is in this legislation. It still has been viewed as a strategic sector for the EU. The Commission views it as important in the clean industrial deal and a fundamental player in the clean tech sector, and a fundamental solution to the automotive sector situation. So that's very good, and that's promising. From our side, we are very happy that our association and our partnership has been acknowledged as a fundamental important factor in the resilience of the value chain for the future, and really helping the industry to accelerate this development as much as possible. The battery booster really shows that the Commission still believes in the public support for the battery industry. That's also a very good news. That's still is a good sign. A lot of invitation of the member states to support the battery sector again comes from that view of the strategic position the battery sector has in the EU future. The explicit mentioning of the black mass is also a reminder that the Commission is thoughtful of the raw materials circularity for the batteries, and of course the inclusion of the European content requirements. So what's not really empty but more unknown and unclear, and we can hope for more clarification and more kind of update on that. So what has been introduced as the support for the batteries under the Innovation Fund and Horizon Europe is still stays within the limits that has been introduced already. So really not a lot of fresh money to be seen there. The battery boosters, as I mentioned, is still lacks detail and concrete measures. The numbers there have already been there. We have little information on the implementation of these guidelines and the plans in the next multi-annual financial framework to use long-term budget. Little mentioning of how we really take that to the budgeting itself. So also the Zero Industry Act, Critical Raw Materials Act, where this kind of an intermediate remedy to make the green industrial deal more business friendly. And within themselves, they have introduced some goals and objectives and targets. Not really a lot of information to see how what has been updated relates to them. As I mentioned, some initiatives like the Tech EU investment program really are just so far on the paper. Not a lot of information again there. The minimum content requirement is a good sign, as I mentioned, but also there is, as you might have heard from a lot of experts, especially in the recycling part, that might backfire. We have little information about to make sure that it doesn't really do that. There won't be any adverse effect of the requirements of again, to make the European battery value chain here. On that point, conditions for inbound foreign investment is still unclear and really falls short of securing and really giving the hope of or safeguarding the benefits for the European champions, quote unquote. The other part is again the notion of the more business-friendly version of the Green Deal is that a lot of startups in Europe and all of companies, a lot of gigafactories, a lot of SMEs specifically have been generated based on the kind of very high standards of the sustainability in Europe. And there was a promise of a very good market for that, just to make sure that cutting red tapes doesn't really mean that the market for them becomes unpredictable. This is the case for the Second Life. We have a lot of projects and startups doing on the on the better manufacturing and sustainable manufacturing, on the very European kind of a terminologies like safe and sustainable by design, just to make sure that the predictability for them is still there, and there is a market for them based on those European values. Negative impacts of the relaxation of emission penalties on EV demand, of course, that's needless to say. A kind of a good kind of incentives, as I mentioned, on the grid, etc., has been introduced accompanying this, but nevertheless, given that a lot of projects have been halted specifically because of the EV demand reduction, this is a little bit of a point of concern. And then last but not least, as good as it was to have a specific part on the batteries for the automotive sector's future plan, we are not really seeing much of the batteries in other sectors, in the CID, in the Clean Industrial Deal, stationary storage specifically, but also defense and also the non-road mobility. So just, I'm sure we will get to a lot of these more in depth in the panel discussion. So enjoy that, and I give the floor back to Walter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bozorg, for this clear overview, the glass half full, the glass half unknown. Contrary to what I said earlier, there seems to be some issues with the signing up button for our newsletter. So everybody will get the presentation sent to them afterwards. We'll see to that in any case. So if you want to have questions, either for the upcoming panel or maybe for Bozorg later, please use the Q&A option that we have in this webinar. That way I can look at them and structure them and see which one to address. So please do that. To nip already the first one in the bud, we got a question from Paolo Mazzucchelli. Sometime the Commission organized a meeting to discuss the possibility of a battery-related auction, like the one on hydrogen. Bozorg, if I'm not mistaken, this is been transformed in sort of not a regular, but a special call under the Innovation Fund for battery manufacturing. It's 1 million of the 3 billion, 1 billion of the 3 billion that was mentioned.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's 3 billion so far. We had for the cell manufacturing 1 billion plus 200 million for from the EIB, the European Investment Bank, for the venture fund. Venture debt, 1.8 is remaining, but still we have, so far it has been for the cell manufacturing specifically. Maybe there will be an update in terms of the criteria or the technologies, or that remains to be seen.
Yeah, the deadline is in April, so and procedures are quite intense for the Innovation Fund, so it's getting very late in the game, but I will post a link to the call later. So with the scene set by explicitly set by Bozorg, let's jump into the panel. We have with us 3 voices who have been in the rooms in the past weeks and are now trying to obtain clarity on the second part of the glass. So first, let me introduce Ilka van Dalwigk, Director General at Recharge. With us, we also have Fabrice Stassin, Secretary General of BEPA and Director of Government Affairs at Umicore. And last but not least, Thore Sekkenes, Program Director at the European Battery Alliance and from InnoEnergy. But there's some news on that, Thore, so enlighten us what's going on there.
Thank you very much. Can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So today is a special day for us at InnoEnergy. We reach an important milestone. And as you know, the InnoEnergy is the company where the industrial part of the European Battery Alliance is managed from. Today marks the launch of our new brand. While our company name is still InnoEnergy, so no change there, our core brand logo will change to Inno. A lot of people are already saying Inno, but now it is Inno, reflecting our role on innovation, investments, and industry collaboration. Please visit our new InnoEnergy website, still the same name, innoenergy.com, to get a glimpse of the new brand and, more importantly, to rediscover InnoEnergy's mission and ambition for the future. And thank you very much for bringing that up, Wouter. Very appreciated.
No worries. Yeah, good, exciting day for you. Just to stay with you, Thore, for the things that both are just presented, the industrial action plan. What are for you 3 points that you're happy with to see in the action plan?
What I'm happy with is targets are still intact. So there's no relaxation on the targets on the environmental. That's an overall thing that I'm very pleased with. I like the fact that the EU batteries are linked to the car industry. But if you ask me for 3 things that are very important to me, then I would like to raise the following 3. Not neglecting the rest, of course, but these 3 I would like to raise. Production support for battery cell makers, support during the scale-up phase. This is very important. We know, we have seen what happens if we're not careful with the nascent industry that we have. Number 2, I like the idea of creating a pool. So I'm very much for boosting EV sales. This is important because this is a pull for the whole battery industry. The car industry is where almost all the batteries go. And the third I would raise is the focus on raw materials, support for raw materials. Those are the 3 key things that I jump on first to try to detail. As Busorg said, the documents are a little bit fluffy, and we need now to implement to get this into action, so to say. Those are my 3 points.
Okay, excellent. Ilka, I don't see you, but I assume you are in the room. How do you see the red threads that are running through all these documents coming from the Draghi and Letta reports all the way down here? Does it make sense, or is there?
I can assure you, I am here.
Okay, yeah, we see you now.
Thank you. And maybe just taking a step back and looking at the development in Europe that we had, starting maybe a little bit even before the launch of the European Battery Alliance, I think in 2015, when we had a global production capacity of 42 gigawatt hours, the Chinese market share of this market was about half of it, 50%. Now we are 10 years later, and what has happened in those 10 years? We have now a global production capacity that it really has exploded, you could say. It's over 1,400 gigawatt hours approximately. And the market share of China is up to 80%. And Europe, I think, is still, I mean, it's hardly to even be seen in there when you're looking at headquarter companies in Europe. So when you're looking at what we have really done in recent years, is that if you could summarize it all, also given the geopolitical situation and things we are struggling with right now, is we have outsourced our energy mainly to Russia or to the countries that are rich in fossil fuel. So we are importing our energy from elsewhere. We have exported or outsourced our defense to the US, something that we are now seeing Europe is struggling when trying to finance our own European defense industry. And we have outsourced our industry to China. So right now, I think there's really the right time and the competitiveness compass, the Clean Industrial Deal and the Automotive Action Plan is really at the right time to bring all those things really at the core and centerpiece of policymaking, and it should be make, buy and protect Europe. That is really what I see in a lot of those documents that are coming out. They're taking this direction already. But as we have seen in Bozok's presentation, some are still not really clear about the details, and some also there is a red thread in all of them, and we haven't mentioned the Steel and Metals Action Plan, but I think there's an acknowledgement that our industry is struggling from the same kind of challenges with the affordable, the like access to affordable energy, the lack of competitiveness, the global unfair playing field, and all of this you see in those different action plans and communications from the Commission now being addressed. But now we really make sure that all those pieces of the puzzle come together and always are guided by this make, buy, and protect Europe as a guiding star, I would say.
Yeah, and this is the sort of logical outcome for that, for targeting the battery sector. Fabrice, for your part from BEPA, if you look at the innovation part, what role do you see for innovation to support all the measures that are now being announced?
Yeah, first let me say that I fully support what has been said by the previous speaker, so fully agree with you. We need to up the game because we have grown up, but others have grown up much faster. So the delta does not get smaller, it gets actually bigger. On innovation, we are in deep tech. So deep tech means that the innovation that we do today, of course, may not have an impact next week or next month or next year. We have to recognize that innovation is a sprint and a marathon, as I always say. So basically, we have to make sure that we are able to preserve some kind of technological leadership in the future. I mean, if you look at the recipes for success in clean tech, you have to know your customer, it's customer intimacy. You have to have excellent operational conditions because you have to go at scale and the margins are very small. So you really need to be able to master processing. And then you have technological leadership. I keep following, the technology radar of battery technologies all over the world. Every week we get some news about a car you can charge at light speed now, close to that. Sodium battery, the second generation being developed, solid state batteries. We are also making very good in developments all around the world. So innovation is of course key. Maybe I can give a few examples. We always look at challenges. Sorry?
Yes, please do.
Okay, I thought you were cutting me already. No, but I can give a few examples. I mean, there are a couple of challenges that we try to summarize according to the 4S because it's easier to explain out there. The first one is on scope. There typically, do you have a specific scope of operations and technologies as a company? So here we see that, for example, a couple of years ago, it was all about high performance batteries. Now we see, of course, the development of more affordable, different kind of chemistry batteries. And at the same time, we also see the next segment being prepared, which is these high performance cars driven by solid state batteries, which can also be used for others than cars, by the way. So that's one example of technological leadership that we need to, I would not say reclaim, but to be strong on. Then on scale, for example, it's very expensive. If you could develop manufacturing processes that require maybe less stringent conditions, like not always dry rooms, if you can review the way you develop batteries and you produce them, you can maybe save a bit on the CapEx programs, which is, of course, I mean, it's going to be good to get production support, but it will be limited in time. It will be limited in amplitude. So if you can also do your efforts to reduce the bill, of course, this is well accepted. And then sustainability, maybe I can give you an example on sustainability. Whatever the batteries that we will put out there, we will need to recycle it to the max. Because you cannot bring a battery to a landfill. I mean, imagine you're driving nice cars and then people learn that actually you are landfilling them. Whatever the composition, you will have to be able to recycle them. But if the composition is very poor in terms of metal value, you will need to be able to have recycling processes that can cover for that. And of course, the last one is the use of critical raw materials. The critical raw materials that you don't have to use is good because then you reduce your demand. And this is where a lot of innovation can still come our way. So I would stop there. But as you can see, the innovation program is not getting smaller, actually, it's getting bigger.
Exactly. More applications to target, more
chemistries, more conditions to respect in terms of being stringent on sustainability agenda.
Okay. Then if it gets bigger and only bigger, then how will we fund all those developments? So maybe that's the next one. Yeah, for you, Ilka, I see you cannot wait to jump in. So Bozok said, yeah, there is mentioning of some incentives, but it's not clear what they will be or how they will look like. What will you be advocating for from research side?
I think there we are quite well aligned with our message. I think that we really need production support for the battery industry, and we need it urgently. I think recent developments have shown that it might already be too late for certain players, and if we do not act fast, we really risk at losing it all, because there are, when it comes to those larger European projects, not so many more in the pipeline, and I think that is really should be a turning point by looking at it. And there was a very interesting report on the state of the electrification that was released by Transport and Environment. And once again, putting this into perspective, is that last year Europe imported oil for 250 billion euro. That is for 1 year. And the T&E estimated that the investment need for clean transport technology in this transition would be 310 billion euros. So there's a difference, but really think about it. It's not that large, and by buying oil, there is no local added value really that you could say when it comes to imports of fossil fuels. But by building up an industry, you have jobs, employments, innovation, all this ecosystem that is surrounded by it. So it sometimes it sounds like that we need a lot of money, but also what are other sectors? I think where is the money really flowing, and how can we really get this added value? And this is what apart from this production support, I think this is always very important. What Thore's second point, we need all the instruments in the tool, which means that we need to couple this support also to mandatory local content requirements that we need to introduce carefully and in dialogue with the industry, of course, that we're not shooting ourselves in the foot, or that it will backfire, as Bozok told us, if we're putting up those requirements too high initially, that nobody can comply with those. But then we have both a push and a pull function. And then as a final point, I also would like to we will not close the door to other countries that want to come and invest in Europe. But here we really need to thinking about stringent requirements is how to do business in Europe with Europeans. That we really need to make those investments have some local added valid technology transfer requirements, and not just keep the door open with no strings attached really. I think that is something that we really need to be smarter. If you have local funding or public funding, there needs to be some conditionalities attached to it. It is not business as usual anymore, but it's not a closed door as well.
Very clear. Multi-pronged approach there to get the funding and the skills as well, technology at the same time.
Yeah. And the final point on the production support, I think that it should be production or output based support really, that it's really awarding those projects that are able now to start producing cells like the ones we have in Europe right now.
Yeah. Okay, clear. Maybe on that point, I'll just quickly turn to Thore, because InnoEnergy and the EBA have been banging the drum for watch out for the stationary storage that will grow big for the past 10 years, I think, or 7 years. That since the beginning, like we started looking at EV batteries, but I remember every Bo Normark presentation said, watch out for the stationary market, this will explode. And then he was even surprised how big it got. So those production incentives, should they also be covering the stationary market or just the EV market, and what can we do to boost that market from the stationary market as well next to the EV market?
Our view is that production support should also apply to battery production here in Europe. It's not limited only to the car industry. Picking up all the good things that Ilka put forward, just adding to that, I totally agree. Foreign companies are welcome, but on our terms, and our meaning the European terms, and the documents that have been described and that we are discussing right now, they open for resilience requirement, putting in their resilience requirements. So on this point, this is a point where the glass is more than half full, I would say. The door is open to do what we have to do on that point. On financing, my comment that I'd like to add is we're now talking about EU and member states support and financing and so on and so forth. That's all good. But adding to that, I think it's important that all the documents that come out, all the actions that we now take have to provide some kind of security or confidence that we are really going in this direction, because that will release private investments as well. So the way we express ourselves, the way the documents, all doubt needs to go away, because if there's one thing that investors, mainly private investors, hate, it is uncertainty. This is something that we have to be very firm with what we do with our intentions. So that's just underlining exactly what Ilka said. Let's be confident when we move forward. And the last general, Ilka took all the good arguments, but on a general level, we're talking about a nascent industry here in Europe. And that needs help. We need some kind of a support function that will be reduced over time as we get competitive. And why do I bring that up? In conversation with Brussels and also member states, there is a careful. Politicians are a bit wary that we create an industry that will have to be held up with subsidies forever. That is not the situation. This is and this is important that we all understand. The end goal is to create a healthy industry, but when in this nascent, in this very beginning, in the scale-up phase, we need help to get to a competitive situation. I think this is. Let's not have a doubt that we're doing this in order to get a new base industry in Europe, and we will succeed with that. Very sweeping, broad term comments, but yeah.
Yeah, clear. Thank you, Thore and Ilka. Narrowing in a little bit on the innovation part, Fabrice, on top of that, do we have to be competitive on the innovation part? Do we have what it takes? Do we have now in Europe what we need to tackle these broad innovation questions that you already outlined?
Let me first say that I also fully agree with all the good points that have been made. I think it's good to, with the production support, to clearly explain that this is not life support. It's a dose of vitamins for a couple of months, years, just to make sure that the baby is then fully mature and ready to compete.
Yes.
And if we don't have this operational excellence, we will not be able to have the technological leadership. So it's all connected in one way. It's two sides of the same coin. But we need to have a massive dose of vitamins for a couple of months, years, and then the vitamins can be stopped, and there is no life support. It's not. It would not be the right word.
Okay. What about the vitamins RNI that we need?
So in terms of innovation, if you look at it from R&D to first industrial deployment, I mean, yes, we have a strong basis in Europe. Obviously, this is the continent of innovation. We are very good at it. Now, if you look at it from a constructive point of view, there are, I think, three things that we can still very much improve. The first one, it's on the magnitude of the funding, the amount of money that we make available, even though it is generous. If you compare with the rest of the world, this is suboptimal. So there is a need to choose the priorities, the battles that we want to fight. And if we are serious about battery and leading, then it comes with a price tag. And the price tag is not cheap because this is deep tech, but it's a question of security. So that's the first one. The second one is maybe on the effectiveness of the funding. I think it's important that we continue to put the industry in the center because we know better than everyone what are the technological battles that we have that should be funded. And we work hand in hand with, of course, the research ecosystem, with the research organizations and the academics, but we know better than everyone what are the fights that we have to make. So that's important that we keep that element as the effectiveness of the funding. But maybe what is important on the effectiveness of the funding is that we always, on a very frequent basis, compare ourselves with the rest of the world. Because we are sometimes a bit Eurocentric, like we invented everything and we are the best, but we are not the best in some things. And so we have to constantly be open and compare ourselves with the others, and maybe our funding system can evolve in that way. And then the last one, it's on the efficiency and the simplicity of the funding. Everything is complex in Brussels, too complex. So we need to simplify. I mean, I give you an example. The battery fund of 1 billion euro, it took 1 year to know the rules of the game. 1 year. 1 year in battery field, this is like an eternity. So we need also to be faster on the ball. So more money, putting more industry in the center in terms of showing the priorities, and then to be more efficient, more simple and faster. Otherwise, we will. There's a speed game. It's a speed game here. It's a scale and speed game.
Yeah.
Ilka, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I think this is really a message. We need to be faster and we need to be simpler. And I think this is something in this comparison game. We always look, oh, the IRA, but I think one of the fundamental differences that we have not really caught up on is the IRA is really output and success based, not project based. That is a fundamental difference also in how to disperse the funding, how projects. I think we have seen this in our ecosystem as well by looking for projects on a project basis. It also means that you every now and then support projects that possibly will never achieve fruition, but by looking at really at a clear output based simple criteria, you will avoid all of this what the innovation fund is struggling with, and it will measure if you set up some minimum criteria. I think it will also award those that are successful. Once again, taking away a layer of this, I think, and like the burden just to fill out the application form for the innovation time, we cannot waste time on this. It's as you said, it's 1 year that they needed to define the criteria. Now the call is open. It will be another year until everyone has filled in those application forms. It will be evaluated, and in the meantime, the patient is dead. So to say, if you're picking up on. So we need those vitamin doses right now. And there on this red thread coming back, there is a state aid framework that Bozik also mentioned, yes, which might be a possibility, but then please go away from this competition between the member state and based on projects as well. It needs to be simple and it needs to be output focused to really get this boost in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
One point that I can also stress is that, of course, here we're talking, I don't want people to believe that we're only focusing on battery cell makers because the battery value chain is from upstream to downstream. But upstream, downstream, or midstream, you still have some startups that may not exist today, but maybe they are the startups that will be the leading ones in 5 years. These startups, they need speed. They cannot wait for 1 year to have the clarity. So if we really want to create the emergence of startups, they need a system which is more appropriate for the startups. And what is good for the startups is good for everyone usually. So this is something also that we want to stress: simplicity and speed.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. We launched a survey recently on within our ecosystem to say what do battery startups need, and it basically they need what every battery company needs, just more so because they're smaller and have less margins. So that's
a good summary.
Yeah, that's exactly what they need. Looking at we now looked at the funding, where the money should come from, how it should flow, how fast it should reach. On the non-monetary side of things, Ilka, how do you think that these pieces of legislation deliver? We saw mentioning of black mass, lots of talk about CRM. What's your viewpoint on that from research?
I think that there is an awareness at local content, and we are very happy that it's actually be in the Clean Industrial Deal. It will be the first time that local content requirements are enshrined in EU legislation. This is already a major step forward that we really are very happy about. Now it comes all about how to define at what level to introduce them, and I really look forward that the Commission reaches out in a good dialogue with industry to get those things, so to say, right. That there will be ambitious but reachable, so to say. So it's always this constant pull coming on how to reach the targets. So from that perspective, I think this is already a first good step, and you see this in the different communications, the Steel and Metal Actions Plan, which has very, very common challenges compared to the battery industry when it comes also to access to material, and here access also to recycled material is so important. And here we have been pushing a long time for that to stop this leakage of black mass from Europe. This has, I think, been picked up now. It's been going to be classified as a hazardous material, which at least will help keep some of the material within Europe, or maybe able to export to other OECD countries. But the same terminology you see also popping up in other regulations. So there is an awareness that this is important if we want to create, as Fabrice put it, a circular economy. And I think this is so important for the battery industry, and this can be the front runner really to establish a circular value chain in Europe. So more of it, and also looking maybe not only at sustainability criteria, but also at resilience criteria that can be introduced, because we really need to have all tools at our hand.
Yeah, talking about tools at our hand, skills are very important. We got a question in the chat as well. What are the ongoing projects to develop these skills that we need in Europe? Of course, Fraunhofer releases their reports to the AOC. There's so many hundreds of thousands jobs, and we need to fill them. Of course, we got a little bit of freeing up of workforce recently in Sweden, but I think we need to work more on that. So Thore, what's your view on that? EBA has been leading here with the EBA Academy. What's the next steps on this?
Yes, the Skills Academy, which we have at InnoEnergy, is dealing with this. We provide the content for courses, but on a general note, evidently we need to do much more work on this. I think it will happen somewhat naturally, but let's not look away from the need for helping people to shift over from all those businesses that will go under. Let's face it, many businesses, many even industries will be very reduced and let go a lot of people. We need to help those people get across to something that is more future oriented, so to say. And in my books, that is the battery and the EV industry. That should swallow a lot of people. To say something positive, the Northvolt experience proves that it is possible to find dedicated people who are prepared to move very far. So there is hope to reach these people, but we certainly need to make it a lot more easier for these people. What we do at InnoEnergy is we have the Skills Academy, which packages the skills needed for the different parts of the value chain, and then provide this to schools, to entities that deliver the courses to people, to companies, and so on. I think that's what I can say about this point. But a lot more is needed. We've only just started. I'm not sure how many people are today engaged in the battery industry. Guessing a couple of, maybe 100,000 or something like that. But it will be much more. And then you have all the industries connected to the EVs and the other applications of the batteries.
Yeah, Ilka, go.
Yeah, just following up on some of the points that Thore made. I think one thing that we also should remember, it's not that batteries are only going to the EV industry. There's a lot more different applications and a lot of, I mean, you have the entire power tool sector, you have the industrial batteries, you have the stationary storage, and just by integrating battery cells into developing BMS systems, and so this will be the industry of the future. And I think as such, we still need to make, I think all of us tell this story, that this is really where we are going, and this is a cool industry, and it has nothing to do with this discourse that we are currently seeing in the public, that it's really this entire EV transition has become so politicized, and there's now this strong push against those targets that have been set up, questioning the entire electrification transition, and this is so dangerous, as Thore pointed out, for investments in the battery industry, but it will also destroy the future outlook for a lot of people if we not be able to convince young people, young scientists, that this is actually one of the coolest areas you can go and do and work in.
Yeah, excellent. Let's make that pitch, and we will also support it from BEPA side, I think, with our innovation projects. And the more money goes into innovation, the more skilled individuals we have here in Europe as well. So thank you, Emin Asker, for the question. Fabrice, you mentioned some points of attention, the 4S that we need to look at for funding. How confident are you that you can bring that to FP10, and what are your plans of telling everybody in Brussels?
Well, I think that what we are doing right now is a good example that there is some strong agreement within the industry on the things that have to be done, and the workload is not going to go down. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of points that we have on the agenda to bring. Short term, this is what we discussed, the Clean Industrial Deal and the Strategic Action Plan, the Industrial Action Plan. Sorry for the mistake. We need to keep make the policymakers accountable, because the things that have been announced in the plan, we have to make sure that they are being delivered. And then FP10, but not only FP10, the Competitiveness Fund. You know, this is at some point going to be coming back to the plate. That's the next multi-annual financial framework, for which we will have to get ready. I mean, the point that Bozorg has made is that in terms of money, there is no new money. It's a reconfirmation of the priorities, which is in Brussels language sometimes already a good thing. But the fresh money could come maybe between, I mean, in the next multi-annual financial framework. So that's 2028, if I'm not wrong. So that means that between now and then, we have to do the best we can with what we have. And that's why we need to be very clear as to what we want. So we have said it, I think production support, and technological leadership, because you need to have both. And then when it comes to the MFF, it's also being able to put some kind of estimation of what are the financial needs that we have as an industry going forward. I mean, and it's important to provide this clarity and this certainty to the industrial sectors, but building to the concept of competence building. I mean, the students that today are choosing their career, they will be choosing between, do I want to go to that industry or that industry? And so we still need to make sure that the battery industry is seen by the students as a future opportunities. Otherwise, they will go to something else. I mean, they will say, oh, I'm going to go into hydrogen, I'm going to go into wind. I mean, it's a very good, important sectors for sure. But if we really want to have all the talent that we need to educate these people now, and the people are going to take decisions soon as to what kind of career they want to pursue. So this is, I think, the future that we have to build together. It's clear messaging, some idea of the financial elements, and then making sure that everyone is up on the game.
Yeah. Okay. Great answer. Thank you, Elena Orlova, for the question. Another question is, how can regional projects like France's Battery Valley align with the goals of the EU Clean Industrial Deal? What kind of changes can a region do to link up with the goals and help support? So I don't know if any of you has a view on this. Thore, how can like national or subnational developments tag into this wave that we are riding right now?
If I'm not mistaken, I always confuse the different acts, but in the Net Zero Industry Act, it actually opens quite broadly for regions to support their local industry. If you read the text as it's written, it's pretty much it's not a carte blanche. It is not, but it is compared to a couple of years ago. There is a big liberty for the regions in Europe to support their industry, but they have to be willing to do it. There has to be political will to do it, and that's up to them. That's up to them. So in my simplistic world, the EU has put forward the framework enabling regions to support their industries. Not all regions have understood or accepted or taken this in. That's my personal view. So here, a lot more can be done, and the door is open.
Yeah.
If I may, on that point, I think also connecting to a remark that Ilka has made a couple of minutes ago, we're going to have this Clean Industrial Deal stated framework. I mean, it's nice that the regions are taking their part. I think it's very important. There are very nice examples, but we also have to make sure that it does not lead to, a subsidy race or a race to the bottom and creating big differences between regions that can afford it and regions that cannot afford it. Because if you are lucky enough to be in a region that has a lot of financial power, you will be helped. If you are not lucky enough to not have the right identity card with you, then you will not be helped. So I think it's important to have the regions, the member states, but I always advocate for a very strong European level that can kind of correct for the discrepancies that you have between countries. Not every country has the same financial power, especially not today.
That is it's a very important point that you make, Fabrice, and I think this is something also going forward that we should in this aspect of the multi-annual financial framework, that we should push much stronger also to build up a common European funding pot instead of putting more at member states level. Really, like the state aid, there's always still this. It is still complicated, like a lot of complications around it, but also that it's not pulling in the same direction. I would say from all different member states, they apply it in a different way, and there is always, I think, also from the Commission part, some fear of this distortion of the inner market if you apply or allow too much state aid. Where in fact we should not. We should actually look at the distortion that Europe faces from the external market in terms of unfair level playing field. This should be our concern, not the distortion of the inner market. so much. So I think there's nothing hindering really that regions can engage and should engage. Member states should engage much more than, at least certain member states, much more than they're currently doing. But this entire endeavor of building a European battery ecosystem should really be seen as a European project, not as a feather in the hand for a local region that, oh, we have our own whatever factory. It's contributing to the larger picture, I would say.
Okay.
For me, the more EU, the better, to be honest, because it corrects for discrepancies and it makes us stronger to fight in the global arena. Fully agree with Ilka.
Yeah.
I think the chat is agreeing as well. So good point.
And then there was a question on the hydrogen. I think that was the point. Yeah, of course, if there are students going into hydrogen, there is a connection, and we don't
get me wrong, of course. Don't get me wrong.
As long as they're going into STEM professions, we are happy already. But of course, we are much more happy if they choose batteries.
If you have to choose,
Yeah. From the BEPA part on European alignment, I also would highlight our national and regional coordination group that we operate. So we share our roadmaps with national governments and regional governments to align and see what is likely going to be funded under the European funding programs and what can be taken up by national and subnational players. So if you want to get involved from that level, please also reach out to us. So we are heading to the end of the Q&A, so I will throw some curveballs maybe now. We're talking about Europe and European. How far do we go in that? Is that EU? Is that EU and EEA? What should we be looking at here?
I mean, when it comes to innovation, it's EU and the associated countries, obviously.
Yes.
So I'm very happy to see. A dream I've had for many years was to create a bridge between Europe and Canada and Europe and Korea, and maybe one day Europe and Japan. I see that is going to be made possible now. Imagine a researcher in Spain will be able to work with a researcher in Korea on the same project. I mean, that's the way to build bridges. And from an innovation point of view, for me, this is a great development that the Commission is doing. Sorry, Ilka.
No, I fully agree with you. I think it is, especially in those times, it's really important to think which are our friendly allies we can work together with and should strengthen those partnerships. So it is definitely not a EU 27 things. I mean, we have Switzerland, we have Norway, which we have strong ties with. We have the UK. We have countries also in Turkey in the eastern part of. So I would see it rather as a business, like a larger business unit. And now we really have to decide on who are our strategic partners in this game that we can team up with. And I think those examples that you mentioned, that we already can now include them in our common joint research undertakings, this is really the way to go.
Definitely. Nice. Cooperation across this planet. That's what we need.
Okay, I think that's the groundwork is there in the documents. We need to do it on our own terms. I think that was the takeaway from Thore.
On our terms, yes. And then you can work with anyone.
Yeah. Wrapping up this super interesting discussion has gone by super fast. There's some clarity still. There's some good points. There's some maybe points that we want to improve on. But what are if you wake up tomorrow, you have an empty agenda, what's the first thing of these points that you're going to work up to?
For me, I think I said it in the very beginning. We need to make the battery cell makers survive, and linked, hardwired to that is supporting them with production support during the scale up. I'm convinced of this, and we have examples of the opposite. We need to take away the doubt about the EV sales. We need to make sure that EVs progress and keep increasing, just like they do in large parts of Asia. So those two are for me very, very fundamental. And then all the other things like, but I think if I had a clean agenda tomorrow, and by the way, my agenda tomorrow happens to be on exactly these two things, then it would be focused on those things. Yes.
Okay, Ilka, what's your?
I think that is similar here. Our focus is right now really to make this the small sentence explore production support into something concrete and tangible, because this is something that is currently lacking in the toolbox of Europe. Something that we have not talked about, and the different criteria for local content requirements, of course, but something that I think also Recharge is heavily involved in right now is, of course, a lot around this implementation of existing legislation and connected to this the simplification exercises that are currently being rolled out by the European Commission, which is, I think, welcome from the industry. It should not mean or interpreted as backing down or stepping back from our ambitions really to develop this industry in a sustainable and circular manner. But a lot of the reporting requirements need really to be streamlined, and I think that is as important as a lot of the other things that we have discussed about to actually boost our competitiveness compared to other business regions. So this should not be forgotten in this context as well.
Yeah, clear. Fabrice, what do we need to do for innovation?
Since Thore mentioned the production support, Ilka, the market stimulation, and the rules of the game, I will try to be different. No, but I think that we also need to make sure that we have the best innovation support system in Europe, of course, to help with the current challenges, but also not forget that the midterm and the long term also need to be taken care of. Otherwise, we will be very good at doing things that nobody wants, and that's also what we want to not have. But we have to have a short-term, midterm, and long-term agenda, obviously, and the short-term, of course, this is the survival.
Clear. Thank you for participating in the discussion. I feel that this is the beginning of still a lot of work in the upcoming months to turn this into reality and really push hard. So thank everybody also for the questions. That was very insightful. Now, before closing, I want to give a word to somebody who really can bridge the two things that we're talking about: Clean Industrial Deal and batteries, and the industrial action plan for the automotive sector. It's Dr. Franz Geyer, BEPA board member, head of the technology cluster at BMW Group. So, Franz, what were your takeaways from this discussion today?
Many thanks. First of all, really many thanks to BEPA, Recharge, and EBA to make such a kind of meeting happening. This is really, as you said, I hope this is not only the beginning. It's getting into a more constant exchange. A lot has been said, and I just want to take a few key points as a summary. And really, I would like to emphasize that we really have these fruitful discussions and exchanges more often, and also thanks to the meanwhile 180, but it has been around 250 attendees during the meeting, and it's really urgent for a successful localization of the supply chain to talk to and with each other for being in the end competitive at a global scale. And we need this industry, the battery industry, for both for the energy transition and the mobility transition, of course. And I would also say, as Thore said, there are two main topics that need to be stressed to be successful. One is the production support, and another one is to have the affordable and efficient material supply from Europe and France, because Europe alone will not make it. It needs to be complemented with speed. Further support mechanism like fresh money, deregulation, simplification, and impact. As has been said, these ingredients are really core to have this, let's say, new industry flying in Europe. Additionally, we need, of course, more collaboration along the entire value chain from mining to recycling. And this is, by the way, executed by the rest of the world, not in Europe. But this needs to be also stressed, and somehow we can harmonize the rules of play in this regard. And it has also been said that we need to harmonize the EU and the member state as single market or as a common ecosystem. Ilka phrased "made by" and to protect Europe. That was also a great saying. And really create the EU content all over the sectors. That's very important. And to really get this, we also need to close the loop to increase the resilience of EU and reduce the environmental footprint. Closing the loop means to establish a circular economy. And the skills topic was also stressed. We need not only the right skills, but also enough workforce in white and blue colors. And this is also mentioned in the plans that were presented by Bostock, and this comes along with the strengthening of the R&D. This is it's a sprint and a marathon along the 4S, as Fabrice said, but this is a very important ingredient to have on one hand the skills pipeline, but also to secure the position of Europe in the global race of technology. And it's not limited to cells; it's for the entire value chain, also for machineries and other technologies. And yeah, finally, looking at the time, finally as board member of BEPA, and of course as a big supporter of EBA and Recharge, having all this what has bin said, and even extending this exchange, I think not only the car industry will survive. And we at BMW, we say local for local to the world, because we are a global player and we love to have the European product also placed anywhere else. And in this summary, many thanks again, and have a good remaining day.
Yeah. Thank you so much, friends. Thanks everybody for joining. Before heading off, I want to remind you that we also have a upcoming webinar on April 23rd. We're tackling actually one of those next generation batteries. We're going to talk about solid state. What is the playing field there? Where are we? What's the status? What's next? So very excited to see you there. April 23rd, same time. So see you then again. Thanks everybody for joining. Slides will be sent to you just in case you missed it. And for the rest, I wish you a very pleasant day. And I want to thank again Ilka van Dalwigk, Thore Sekkenes, Fabrice Stassin, and Frans Geijer, and Bozo Kambi for the amazing presentation. So thank you all.
And you.
Ciao. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.